Welcome. Now in this video, I want to explore the reset. We've spent some time looking at architecture and the role that it provides. It's still unknown. It's clear that a primitive people just starting out their civilizations would not build this glorious architecture. And if it was already here, what function did it really provide? Today we'll go deeper into the nature of this realm, as we ask ourselves, do we live on a supercomputer? I hope you enjoy. As usual, there's really no structure to my thoughts today. I was just looking at this video. Do we live in a computer? This has kind of been the topic lately amongst our small community of alternative research. Ultimately, where the research of the Peruvian lines leads, it takes us all through the realm, no exception, and pretty soon beginning to look like a motherboard or circuit board. All these lines and even canals and grids and buildings, temples, monuments, all acting as a giant computer. And what is powering the computer? It appears we are the source of food or input or power to this realm-wide supercomputer. And this is definitely a bigger picture, almost Matrix seeming concept. This, again, bringing us back to the cube and the hidden controlling force, again showing itself to be something beyond human. If this is a massive computer, and if we're powering this computer, then who is receiving and benefiting? Really making us feel very small, and our very lifeblood as a collective, people providing a resource that we're completely unaware of to a possible entity that we are equally unaware of. And really, when we look at cars moving in the night, the timing of everything, the required amount of work and scheduling, all perhaps being by design, when the recipients of this supercomputer require more energy is when the masses are triggered into action, be it just everyday work or special sporting events and even holidays, providing a possible reboot or break for the system. And again, fascinating the way we seem to push an issue on all these different channels until it's similar to beating a dead horse and something like this comes along. Something that we've all scratched the surface of for years. And I love how a new puzzle piece seems to fit in with other puzzle pieces, suddenly shining new light on old subjects. And when we question the old subjects with our new information, things seem to fall into place. And really dissecting every component of a computer or a machine can be shown to have similarities to our modern cities and buildings, and nothing is by accident. Really, most of these city layouts being constructed, we're told, in the 1700s, 1800s, completely small populations, primitive people, these layouts were already here. This is what seems clear in our research. All the grids and ancient lines that make no sense in the middle of nowhere, similar to Peru. And yet this knowledge seems to be understood. Now much infrastructure does remain, key components in this supercomputer, but many seem to be rebuilt, and we build towers, cubes, and what are we really building? If they lay on these lines or circuits, all these components producing heat, and if working in unison, a potential massive energy transfer, if harnessed, if all of this is true. And here, this channel shows the melting of one of these circuit boards, and absolutely fascinating to see what happens. And this seems very similar to this event in which we cannot place our finger on, this reset event that seems to be hit and miss throughout our realm. Not every part got cooked, but other locations did, turning what seemed to be bustling civilizations based on the remains into complete wastelands and powdered deserts. But yet much evidence still does survive in the deserts of Iraq, and really all throughout this realm. There's no one particular place, and yet making no sense. I'd often hypothesize that this event may come from the solar luminary above, what the mainstream might have called a solar flare. Regardless, some sort of intense outburst of fiery plasma. And again, if this is a supercomputer, what is the function? And the reset could simply be the resetting of this supercomputer. And all of this happens underneath us. What we see on the surface is our realm. But really, the bulk of this function taking part under our feet, underneath the cities that are under our feet. And perhaps this supercomputer goes on, unconcerned with the cyclical resets that take place on the surface. This realm seeming to have a timing like a clock. And again, we cannot even begin to conceive of the greater function of this machine in which we dwell upon. All as we know is it clearly resets itself, wipes out the people and the buildings every so often as a byproduct of this otherwise pretty fascinating machine. Something that has otherwise been given credit to natural, if we look at science, a perfect system that sprung out of nothing, a perfect free energy, self-perpetuating system. And if we look at it from a biblical perspective, a system created by God, not too dissimilar from this theory we're discussing right now. A system created for someone, and actually being very much more machine-like than natural and organic, like we were taught to believe. And this leads into the research of another channel I wanted to share. A very fascinating channel comprised of 3 individuals putting their minds together. And I've been watching this channel for some time, trying to make sense of their work. Very heavy and deep, but excellent research, and I believe that they're really on to something. So I don't want to get too deep, I just want to scratch the surface. I really look forward to doing an interview with them and just getting their take rather than me butchering it. And here's this channel I'm talking about, FPV Angel. A very nice channel, don't be scared by the picture. And I have not watched this video yet. I've watched several others. There's hundreds, I think. I'm sure this one is good. And just this image, for example, gives us a feel for what's going on in this realm. Now, again, tying this in with all the grids and circuit boards and cities, and now looking at it from a larger perspective, we can see this wave pattern. And this wave pattern, according to this channel, actually originating underneath our feet and creating this frequency. And this frequency is said to carry our luminaries across the sky. And he shows that at times this greater frequency can be seen even in the radar maps that they give us. As we see here, just the central part of the larger pattern. The wave would continue above and below, but even so, probably difficult for them to clean these up, so they present them to us in that fashion. And based on the accumulated research of this channel, they seem to have cracked the cycle of the reset. Understanding this clockwork pattern, I find this research absolutely fascinating. And they take it in so many different directions. These points can be tied to earthquakes and predictable, absolutely moving in a flow along these grids and lines in a predictable order. And they also tied in, which I found fascinating, was the drilling for oil exploration. And these oil companies would be drilling in these key points. And just mind-blowing. Is somebody sabotaging? And while we unknowingly feed the machine, keep it perpetuating, there may be a greater battle, which may simply involve keeping this machine going or shutting it down. And an excellent channel. I really encourage you to check out their work, and I look forward to having an interview, again really seeming to have a grasp on this realm. And next I think we'll have a little look at something a little bit more wild, and this pertains to the supercomputer, and the question being who? Who or what could possibly be behind such a massive supercomputer? Do we have any clues? Do we see anything unusual? And just last night, I saw such a thing. Minding my own business in the evening, outside my back door, I saw a glorious light. No flashing, no sound, what looked like a star, moving from west to east, silently, and my immediate first thought was Wandering Star. Hello, Wandering Star. As we discussed, this artificial realm seems to have a cyclical reset clock built into it. However, in the case with anomalous fires seen worldwide, like the California fires in Australia, blamed on nature, these actually seem to be more select attacks, strategic. And while on the subject of strategic attacks, I want to conclude with this recent event in Lebanon. An explosion felt for 100 miles blamed on firecrackers in a warehouse. In reality, this appears to be a high-tech, turning this building into what looks like a tree stump. What type of weapon was this? I don't know. And lastly, I'll just leave you with this hike with me and Chief the day before. A very beautiful place to explore. Looked like there was fencing on this side, and I really wanted to go out there. And how interesting that the fine for dumping It should be $299 per day. Really presenting it as if it's a pretty good deal. Not quite $3. But that's it for today. I do hope you enjoyed, and do have a blessed day. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Not the first time I've seen bright, beautiful orbs above my head. I have seen one more brilliant than this, and much larger. But the fact that I saw this one coming immediately in the north while looking for the Big Dipper, and Martin on Flat Earth British has been saying he had a lot of comments coming in that the stars had changed their orientation. And I looked up upon walking out my back door and looked up at the Big Dipper. And immediately as I spotted it, a star was moving out of it. Now initially, our minds really do want to be logical, especially when seeing anomalies like this, and I thought airplane. And it continued to move in such a way that I quickly realized this was not just a regular airplane, especially having seen many of these things before. I ran in and grabbed my phone, thinking I would miss it. Usually this is the case. But in this case I was lucky, and I managed to fix my camera on this spot. And here it is moving, again from west to east. No sound, and moving at a speed that did not seem to be what an airplane would move at. Much faster, quiet, with no flashing lights. And forgive my shaky hand, I'm amazed I even captured it. And here I was able to watch it, and now boom, it just disappears as if it just kicked on super speed. And without a sound. I mean, this was covering probably 100 miles from what I just saw in less than 30 seconds.